Hi everyone, and welcome to my channel. My name is Paris. I'm the author of what is soon going to be the complete Magi trilogy. I have the whole trilogy here right now because I have my official proof copy of Belle Destine, which is on the back, and it releases 2 weeks from today. So now we have the Magi, we have Illusion of Fear, and I kind of just flashed it already, but the grand reveal of Belle Destine is right here. I did the cover reveal on Tuesday. I got this proof copy on Tuesday as well. So here is the cover of the third book in the trilogy, which releases on August 25th, 2 weeks from today. In today's video, I want to talk to you about something that I've kind of been noticing while I'm doing my final draft of proofreading. I'm going through the series, or the book specifically, Belle Destine, one last time before I, put everything up on KDP officially, before I tell you guys I have the final file, everything like that. I'm doing the last minute details, and I want to talk to you about those minor details in your editing, those little details that, okay, if this word is technically a little bit inconsistent to some other things, or if this isn't capitalized like the other versions, it's not that big a deal. It actually has more of an effect than you might realize. So I want to talk to you guys today and just make you aware of some, I don't know if I want to say common little mistakes, but little mistakes in books that I've seen before and that maybe you've seen before and that if you're publishing, you would like to try to avoid. Now, the reason why these minor little mistakes happen isn't because they're not important or because you're not doing a good enough job. It's because they are so minor, you quite literally might not notice, and your readers might not notice either. Sometimes if you accidentally once in the entire trilogy or series, whatever it is you're writing, direct somebody as Mrs. instead of Miss, your readers might not notice. It's a very minor detail. They're probably at this point already associating with this character. Your brain, the way it works is you see that last name and you click to who it is. If you're directing Mrs. insert name or Miss insert name, if it's the same name, you might not notice. However, there's a difference. Mrs. implies that they're married. Miss implies that they're not married. Different little details like that. They might seem very minor, but they do have a difference that your readers might notice, and if you have enough of these, that is when it becomes a problem. Like I said, if there's only one in the entire trilogy, series, book, whatever it is you're writing, your readers might not notice. Just like you skimmed past it, just like your editor skimmed past it, just like any other proofreaders, beta readers you had skimmed past it. This is how these things happen. They're very minor. They're not super huge details, but they are a good thing to keep a lookout for. So I'm going to be listing some common ones that I guess I've been finding in my own writing that maybe you guys will discover in your writing as well once you're aware of it, once you're on the lookout for it. Titles that are similar to each other or just ways to address people, Miss, Ms., Mrs., and then even when you're going on to Lord or Duke or King, Queen, whatever it is, they can be fairly easy to mix up, particularly when different characters address this same character in different ways. If one of these characters has somebody as a teacher, they may direct them as, talk to them as Professor so-and-so. However, another character who knows them outside the classroom may call them Mr. or Mrs. and might even call them by their first name. So little details like that are when it starts to get tricky, because you need to remember when you have this one character who is, the same person, no matter who is talking to them, you need to make sure that your characters are addressing them how they would be. Same thing when you introduce a nickname. If this nickname is going to be a consistent thing, then it should, always be used. There are exceptions, but for the most part. If a character introduces themselves as Mr. or Mrs. and later says, actually, you can call me by your first name, keep it consistent. Remember to make that switch. That is another switch that can be made internally too. I know personally, sometimes I will think of people by their first name, but I address them by their last name. So I think of them by their first name and then I call them Mrs. So-and-so when I'm actually referring to them. That is realistic. I think a lot of people do it. I would advise you to stay away from that when you're writing, because that could confuse your reader when you're doing the switch, and that leaves room for wiggle room. However, there are also other examples of little details like this that aren't just names. Names are a big one, but there are others as well. The severity of wounds and where they are located, as well as scars, are another fairly common mix-up that I have seen. Not on every single piece of work, but sometimes they may have a scar on their right arm that switches to their left arm for one scene, and then back to their right arm. Little things like this is something to keep tabs on. I know for me personally, when I write King Brenton, who, as you know, on the cover, let me awkwardly pull this up for you. King Brenton has a scar over one eye. It is his left eye. almost every single time I write him and mention his eye, I have to go back to the first book and just double check that it's his left eye, right? Just so I make sure that I don't make that mistake, because I want it to be consistent. Again, it's fairly minor, but it's little things like that that I guess dock your credibility. If you're making a lot of these mistakes, that's when it gets a little awkward. So this is why I'm talking about it, so that you can be aware of them. Another another example that could be a little minor detail that you might forget is how old a character was when a certain event happened. If a character is talking about an event in their past, keep tabs of how old they were when it happened. If they're referencing it as they were 9 in one scene and they were 10 in another, it's a little detail. You probably, you missed it for a reason. It's a very minor detail. Your readers will probably miss it too, but again, maybe they won't, and little things like that dock your credibility. Another thing that I always struggle with, like I said with scars, I always go back to double check how long ago an event happened. I know for the Magi trilogy, I have gone through day by day so many different times. I will literally go through the entire book, and every time it says morning or night, I put a mark on it, and then I add up when it is. And then I took it a step further, and I put my step-by-step, day-by-day outline, and I gave every single day a name, which is the main event of the day. Or I put 3-day time skip, or I put like day 16, 17, 18 are blank. Whatever it is, I go step by step so that I can reference days and I can go back and keep things consistent. This is something that maybe isn't that big a deal, because if I say, oh, roughly 2 weeks, your readers aren't going to be, I don't know, I haven't done this personally, gone through, reread the trilogy to be like, let's make sure they got that correct. Your readers probably aren't going to do it, but it keeps it consistent, and it will also help you in the future because you now know when a certain event happened. If you're referencing, oh, this happened about 2 months ago, yeah, you're not going to be like, this happened exactly 59 and a half days ago, but the about 2 months ago gives you that timeline. It gives you that consistency and that credibility. It's little details like that that show that you care and that you're aware of what you are writing and you're putting a lot of time and effort into it. The final example I have that I have noticed, and I think it will affect fantasy authors or any authors who are creating their own words or names for things the most, is keeping your capitalization consistent. Because if you are referencing a species of animal, that's real. That's legit. If it's capitalized in real life, that's what you're going to use. If it's not, if you're calling a lion, you're probably not going to capitalize the capital L every time. But certain breeds or certain morphs, like if you're talking about a certain type of dog, you may capitalize it. There's little things like that you're going to have to do the research to make sure you have it right, but it's pretty straightforward. It's a real creature, it's a real animal, it's a real place, it's a real invention, whatever it is. You have a real life example for it. If you are creating something, if you are naming a creature for yourself, that is when you're going to need to be like, okay, is this capitalized? Or is it something that we just don't capitalize and that it's not mentioned again? There's a lot of different crystals in the Magi, the different magic contained rock things that they used. Teleportation crystals, for example, are not capitalized. I don't capitalize the T or the C in it. You're going to learn about a crystal in Beldestein that is called Tapura quartz, and that is always capitalized. So little details like that you need to keep consistent within yourself. Keep your own spelling and your own grammar consistent. When a character in the Magi goes into cooldown, I have it in single quotes every single time. That is consistent throughout the trilogy because that is how the word cooldown is spelt in this world. And sometimes it might break grammar rules. Like cooldown, just mentioning it casually wouldn't be in parentheses, it wouldn't be in quotes or anything like that, italicized. However, I decided to do it, which you guys know how I decided to do it. Point being is it might not be grammatically correct, however, it is technically correct in the circumstance with the word that you invented. Those are a few of the examples that I have noticed the most prominently, and both as reading and as I am writing. A lot of these, actually all of them, are examples of things that I personally will notice as I'm going through the process of editing, proofreading, writing in general, that I might accidentally miss. And the reason, again, I keep emphasizing this, the reason that they're missed is that they're minor. But these minor details have more impact than you may realize, because, well, one misspelling, one word that's supposed to be capitalized but isn't, doesn't really matter in the big picture. It does add to your credibility, and it makes you look like a stronger, a better writer if you have everything consistent. Your work, your hard work, and your attention to these minor details does pay off because your readers will notice. Like I said, they may not notice one instance, but if you have it on every page, if every other page things are switching up, if there's sometimes you say this and sometimes you say that, your readers are going to start to notice. They're going to lose interest in your books, and you're going to have less credibility in their mind. So by paying attention to these minor details, by being aware of what you may forget, and you don't necessarily need to put a note, you don't necessarily need to write, this scar is on the left side of his face, and this word needs to be capitalized every time except for insert blank. You absolutely can do that, but just the awareness of it, and when you're proofreading, to keep an eye on things. And if you start feeling like, okay, I'm not 100% sure, put a note on it then, and then go back and check and make sure it's consistent. Thank you for watching this video. I hope it helped you out in some way, shape, or form. I hope it kind of gets sparked an awareness in these little minor details that in the big picture may not have a huge impact, but as you correct and as you notice and you perfect more and more of them, it will definitely level up your writing. Thank you again for watching. If you were excited for Belle Destine, which I know I personally am, don't forget that they are available for pre-order now. You can get a signed copy. If you pre-order, I will have that form down below for it. You can get a signed copy of just Belle Destine, of the entire trilogy, of book 1 and 2, of whatever combination you want. Even if you don't see it on the form, contact me and I'll help you figure it out. I also have the pre-order goodies for Belle Destine officially solidified. I will be sharing them with you on Instagram over this weekend at some point. Maybe today, we will see how that works out. Regardless, you will get a bookmark, a magic guide, and a map. So if you're interested in that, or you just want those goodies, definitely check out the form down below. I also have the ebook available for pre-order on Amazon that will also be linked down below. And if you pre-order the ebook, you will be given a special access to a laptop wallpaper as well as a iPhone wallpaper that is Belle Destine themed. If you're interested in any of that, check out the links down below. For now, thank you again for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and whatever time it is, whether it's morning, evening, or night, have a great day.